months, Mr. Gary Russell Jr. makes his return to the ring, and he will be taking on the #1 contender, an unbeaten fighter in Mark Magsayo, 23-0. 16 of his victories have come by knockout. It is, of course, a fight that is being promoted by TGB Promotions and brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions. Tickets are on sale. You can purchase tickets through Ticketmaster.com. Again, Ticketmaster.com. A triple header of fights that comes your way on SHOWTIME Championship Boxing, the undisputed leader in the sport. 9 p.m. Eastern is when we start things off. That is 6 o'clock Pacific time. We're going to talk to both of the fighters. We're going to allow you, members of the media, to ask your questions. All you have to do is hit the raise your hand icon there on the Zoom, and we will acknowledge you, and you can ask questions to the fighters as well. But let's hear from them, first of all, about how camp has been going and their thoughts on this fight. And let's start with the challenger, Mark Magsayo, 23-0. 16 of his wins have come by knockout. He is, of course, fighting from the Philippines. Mark, if you would, let the people know about how training camp has been going and your thoughts on facing the champion, Gary Russell Jr.
First of all, I would like to thank Shoshan and BBC and Showtime for making this fight happen. And for this training camp, I've been training for 3 months and 3.5 months. So I will prepare. I will prepare for this fight. Will prepare. Yeah.
Fantastic. And now let me introduce the champion, Mr. Gary Russell Jr. 31-1, 18 knockouts. As I said at the top, the longest reigning current world champion in the sport of boxing. He fights out of Capitol Heights, Maryland. He will be making the 6th defense of his WBC featherweight crown. Champ, if you would, let people know how camp has been going and your thoughts on returning to the ring.
Oh, man. Camp has been hectic, man. There's been a lot going on. You know, Pops, he been dealing with amputation. He got his foot amputated. He's my coach as well as my dad. I've been somewhat training myself, and then my father, his health isn't the best, so he's getting in the gym as much as possible. But we grinding, man. We ready. No complaints, no whine. We gonna get to it.
Well, let's talk about this fight before we get to members of the media. And Champ, let me start with you, because you know this is a question you get all the time, and you probably get this question. If you weren't as talented as you are, people probably wouldn't ask you this question, but they want to see you more often. And generally, we only see Gary Russell Jr. once a year. When we see you on January 22nd, it will be nearly 2 years since we've seen Gary Russell Jr. Tell us why.
I mean, the fans as well as the media have to hold themselves somewhat responsible for that. I've been willing to compete against whoever, whenever, wherever. But I can't force these guys to get in the ring and fight me. You know, I supposed to competed against Brave August. I want to say about a year ago. But next thing I know, I see him competing on Canelo's undercard. So I can't make these guys get in the ring. All I can do is prepare myself to the best of my ability. Like I say, I need a dancing partner. I can't go in the ring and shadow box.
Mark, listen, the last time we saw you was back in August. And man, you had this tremendous comeback knockout win against Julio Ceja. What did you learn from that fight that you can take into this fight with Gary Russell Jr.?
I learned a lot of that fight of Ceja for the fight, as that give a lesson how to box, how to win the fight, how to adjust the fight in the middle of the fight. So I think I will prepare for this coming fight for Gary Russell, because I respect him. He's a world champion. But this coming January 22, I'm gonna win the fight.
Gary, you mentioned the fight with Ray Vargas, and again, we heard your name, I think, over the past year a couple of times. There was talk that maybe Gary Russell Jr. may move up to 130, fight Chris Colbert. There was even talk about possibly Tank Davis at one point. Why stay at 126? Why Magsayo?
I'm at 26 right now because I am the champion. I don't mind fluctuating my weight. It doesn't make sense to me to move up in weight and fight for a contender spot. If I'm going to move up in weight, I'd rather move up and fight the champ. That's it. That's all. It's a waste of my time to move up and fight just to stand in line. The reason why I'm fighting Magsayo is because he fought his way up the rankings to challenge the champion, and he is now the #1 contender. He is the next best guy to the champion. Everyone that I've been competing against has been the next best guy to the champion because I could not get in the ring with another world champion, whether in my weight division as a unification match or in the bigger weight division for another opportunity for me to challenge for the title.
Mark, you told the boxing scene when this fight was announced that, quote, "This is going to be a great fight for me to show the world what Filipinos are made of." Tell us what you meant by that.
I mean that there's gonna be wants to beat Gary Russell, because I want to prove that to the people in the Philippines, not only in the Philippines but in the whole world, that I'm the best in my weight class. Yeah.
Gary, talking with Mark, he had this great comeback win against Julio Ceja. Any concerns about Magsayo, his comeback ability, and still having the power to deliver knockouts, especially in the later rounds?
No concerns. No concerns at all. You very seldom see Mr. Gary Russell Jr. have to come back from behind, being in behind on the scorecards. Mark had to come back. He had to knock that guy out because he was losing on the scorecard. That goes to show holes and kinks in his armor. It's very seldom that you see Mr. Russell have to come back from behind the scorecard. So no, none of that.
Mark, what do you think Gary Russell Jr. should expect on January 22nd when he steps into the ring with you?
I expect that there's a great fight for that fight. I expect that he perform his talent in the ring, and I perform my ability to fight with him with a good fight, and let's see what he does in the ring.
Gary, same to you. What should Mark Magsayo expect when he steps into the ring with the champion on January 22nd?
Oh man, the same thing that anybody expects when they get in the ring. They never really can prepare for this shit. You can't really prepare for it like you think you can. I expect for him to bring his physical best and his mental best. I take my hat off to him because he's willing to put it all on the line. He's willing to compete against the best, and he wants to be the best. That is the heart of a true fighter and a true champion. I wish some other fighters in the sport would have the same characteristics, because I don't see it in the sport as much.
Has it been frustrating at all, Gary, when you look at the PBC side and say, hey, look, give me these guys who are on the same side of the street as me, put them in the ring with me? Has that been frustrating for you?
It's been frustrating. It's definitely been frustrating, but it's somewhat flattering in the same breath, because it goes to show a lot of these guys aren't really willing to step in there with me and put it all on the line because of the skill set in which that I bring. Finally, another competitor with some heart and with some cojones that's willing to fight. I take my hat off to Mark Magsayo, and I know he's going to bring his best. I want him to bring his best. I'm going to bring everything that I got, and we're going to see whose best is best.
I give you a good fight.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I know there are a number of members of the media here. They certainly have some questions for both of you gentlemen. So let's get right to those questions. Chris de Blasio, who's the Vice President of Communications for Showtime Championship Boxing, will acknowledge you, and then you can ask your question to the fighters. Chris?
Thanks, Brian, and thanks to all the press for being on. We're going to start with Gene Wang from the Washington Post. Gene, you should be allowed to unmute and go ahead.
Hey, Gary, good to see you again, albeit virtually. You've had to overcome probably more than most over the last 2 years, not just with the pandemic, but you mentioned your father's health issues and, of course, your brother's passing. Just how are you holding up mentally through all that adversity, and how difficult has it been to focus on your career and the boxing training aspect of it?
Oh man, I use it as fuel. It has been very difficult though. But I tell people all the time, life is like boxing. You got to keep your chin down and your hands up, and you got to fire when you got to open it. I'm grateful that I have the mental capacity. I'm mentally strong when it comes to stuff like this. I don't know anybody else that can cover for me. It's been definitely difficult with my dad. He's been my coach as well as my father. A lot of guys like Mark, in most cases, you have a product that's somewhat developed, and then you have another coach to come in and try to clean up that product or add on to it. You know, with Freddie Roach and him, they had to learn each other. They still are in the process of learning one another. Whereas though me and my dad, you know, it's just a certain level of chemistry that's just innate. It just is. And I think that right there plays a big factor. I refuse to have someone else to train me other than my dad. So for some of this training camp, I've honestly trained myself, me and my younger brothers, until my father recently just got out of the hospital and he's been a part of the camp. It's definitely been difficult, but man, we don't whine, we don't complain. I'm a champion for a reason. This is what champions do. We have to overcome adversity.
How did your brother's passing affect you, and how long did it take to? Are you still processing it, and kind of, you mentioned to use it as fuel? I mean, do you think about him every day and kind of motivate you during camp?
I definitely do think about it every day. It's so crazy when my brother passed. It took me 2 months. He passed in December, and in February, the street that we lived on, I changed the name of the street to my brother's nickname. You know, I'm still dealing with it. I'm still coping with it. And once again, I use it as fuel. I use it as motivation. And I know my brother's with me. You know, energy is transferable. So, bro, hand me some of that energy because I'm gonna need it.
How has your perspective changed on life and your career at all, given the adversity you've been through over the past couple of years?
I wouldn't say that it's changed, but it didn't really change, man. It just made me a little more tunnel vision, a little more focused. It goes to show you that time waits for no one. You have to give it everything that you can. You know, I wish I had more time with my younger brother. You know, unfortunately, I can't get it back.
Yeah.
You know, all I can do is allow him to live through me at this point by continuing to be the best that I can possibly be.
And how did your other younger brothers kind of handle his passing?
Oh my God, man. Then they've been having an issue.
Yeah.
They definitely have Gary Antonio. When the last time you seen him compete, he held it together. It was difficult, even with that fight, because my father wasn't there.
Yeah.
Me and my younger brother had to work his corner. He's used to hearing my father's voice. Of course, he's comfortable with hearing me, but he was accustomed to hearing my dad's voice. I think that was an issue that he had, and it was crazy because immediately after the fight, he held it all together until right once they announced the win. I mean, he just laid his head on my shoulders. He just broke down crying. Like the weight of everything was just on his shoulders. It's crazy, man. And it's so difficult for me to be the oldest. You know, I have to live by example. You know, I have to inform them and also show my younger brother, you know, that everything is okay. This is a part of life. and this too shall pass.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.
All right, Gene, thank you very much. And Gary, thank you for the updates on your dad. We're glad to hear he is hopefully on his way to recovery and out of the hospital now. Let's go to Keith Eidick next with Boxing Scene. Keith?
Hey, Gary, first and foremost, my condolences on the loss of your brother. I know it was a very difficult thing for you and your family to go through. As it relates to your dad, I know it's been a tough thing for him to try to recover from this. If it's, I don't know if it's unlikely that he'll be in your corner on next Saturday. It's only 11 days from now or so. But if he's not there, will your brothers just work your corner, or is there someone, like you said, you don't want anyone else to train you, but who would be your corner if not your dad?
My brothers would definitely work the corner. Rodrigo Moscata, he's always been a good guy. He always helped work the corner with me as well. My father, he's a warrior at heart, man. He is a warrior at heart. He's supposed to be going back to the hospital to get checked out. He got to get some stuff done, but he's deciding that he's not going to get it done until after the conclusion of this fight. He felt like he missed enough time in the training camp, and he wants to dedicate the rest of whatever he do have to me, and to the rest of this camp. I'm grateful for that. It means a lot to me. And, once again, we use it all as fuel.
Gary, so he will be in your corner on Saturday night, as far as you know, on next Saturday night?
As far as I know, he will be there. Like I say, even now, his health is not the best. His health definitely is not the best. He's still having issues, even after the amputation. He has real bad sugar diabetes. This is why I took my hat off to Leo Santa Cruz, dad. We're fighters, but at the end of the day, we're still real people. We're still real people at the end of the day. And your dad, your mom, is just your brothers. It's just certain things that nothing will ever replace. So I'm just grateful that even with my father being in the state in which that he's in, he's still willing to be a part and participate in something that he started.
Gary, how long ago did he have his foot amputated?
I'm going to say about between a month or so, about a month or so ago.
Before Christmas sometime?
Yeah, before Christmas. And he was actually in and out of the hospital for weeks or maybe about a month even before that, So a lot of the training camp, I've been somewhat doing it myself. And we've been kind of like doing the Zoom thing or the duo on the phone, while I'm in the gym, he's just on the phone, watching what I'm doing in the gym and still giving instructions while he's over the phone, So it's been somewhat difficult, but man, I'm a champion for a reason, man. No whining, no complaining, man. We still ready. I'm gonna give and bring the best that I can possibly bring. And I hope, I'm not even gonna say I hope, I know Mark is gonna bring the best he can possibly bring because he knows what he's up against.
I appreciate all the information, Gary. I know it's not easy to talk about all this stuff. I'm going to ask you something insignificant in comparison to what we've just spoken about, but I know that you've wanted the Tank Davis fight for quite some time. You've been very vocal about it. It seems to us it's fairly obvious that they don't want the fight. Have you kind of given up on it, or how do you look at it now?
I mean, to be honest with you, I never overlook anybody. Of course I would want to fight, but as of now, I'm focusing on Mark. Mark is the one that is willing to step into the ring and worked his way up the rankings to challenge me for my world title. Gervonta Tank Davis, he's not in a rush. Or maybe Floyd Mayweather, Leonard Ellerbe, none of them guys are not in a rush of putting him in the ring with me. I'd rather focus on a true warrior, a true gladiator, someone that's willing to put it all on the line and bring their physical best. That's Mark.
I just have one last question for you, Gary. A lot of guys talk about ring rust when they have been off for a long time. You've obviously had some long layoffs, and it hasn't been noticeable with you, particularly in your last fight against Nyambayar. You didn't look rusty at all. How have you been able to combat that better than most?
Because I stay in the gym. Boxing it's not just what I do, it's a lifestyle for me. Even when I'm over and done with my career, I will still be in the gym. I'll still be working out, and I'll still be trying to get me some sparring in every once in a while with who's ever willing to give me some work. You know, it's just a certain type of lifestyle. You know, I never really blow up and get big in weight or anything like that. I love what I do. I'm a competitor, and I'm honestly I'm very militant as far as my mindset goes. You know, I'm one of them type of people. I want to always have the condition. I tell people all the time, what if you had to run 3 miles to save your life? Would you be able to do it? This is something that I will always want for myself. This is something that I will always want for my friends, my family members, and etc. And me personally, I got children, so I want to be able to do it with luggage. I want to be able to do it with baggage. Just in case I got to put a baby or two on me, I want to be able to do it and be able to get through this thing with ease. You know, so I always want to be in a certain level of conditioning or in a certain level of shape. And I think just my lifestyle and my way of living helps me overcome that.
Thanks again for your time and perspective, Gary. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Let's go now to Jim Conlon. Jim from RCB Radio Ireland.
Hi, Gary. I suppose you mentioned there about the 2-year sort of layoff, and you mentioned about trying to get fights and people not looking to get in the ring with you. But your record has been flawless so far, bar the Lomachenko sort of fight. Now, the last 2 years, an awful lot has happened with Loma, with Teofimo Lopez, and brought up scenarios that Loma's trying to go back. Is now the time right now in the next year or two to rekindle something with Loma going forward? Obviously, there's a wrong there that you want to right.
Of course. Like, once again, you know, I'm a very respectful person, you know, so I never overlook anyone. You know, right now my main focus is Mark Magsayo. I know he's ready and he's going to bring his best. But God willing, we get past him injury free. If I could make 2 fights that I would want to happen, I would want Gervonta Tank Davis and I would want Lomachenko.
And I suppose, Gary, in terms of this fight, you mentioned Mark, and one thing noticing about Mark's record is the knockout percentage. It's very, very high in terms of what do you think is his main, most powerful weapon, Mark, in terms of his punch?
Say that one more time.
What do you think is his main powerful arsenal in terms of his weapon, in terms of his knockout power? Is it right overhand, or what sort of punch you think is he most effective with?
I feel as though that he's a little even-handed. I believe that he's more dominant with his right hand, though. I feel like he might hit harder with his right hand, but I feel as though he has good even punching ability. None of it really matters if you can't hit your target, though. If you can't land effectively, it doesn't really matter. If you catching gloves and I'm slipping, it doesn't really matter how hard you can punch. You can't land and touch your target.
And I just have one final question for Mark. Mark, in terms of this fight, I suppose people will look at it and say it's a win-win. It's a no-lose situation for you in terms of taking on this fight. It's a world title fight. It's probably the biggest name on your resume in terms of fights so far in Gary Russell. The opportunity has presented itself now to you. You've earned that opportunity. So obviously it's go hard or go home for you, Mark, in terms of trying to step up and deliver on the night against probably, well, many people see you as a dark outsider in terms of what you're capable of. Is this the time to show the world that you mean business?
Yeah, I'm gonna show the world that I'm the best in this weight, and I'm thankful for Shoshan putting me this opportunity to fight a world title fight. I've been waiting for this time. So I'm going to do my best to win this fight.
Best of luck to both fighters.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Let's go next to the fight girl, Cynthia Conti, representing Ring TV.
Can you guys hear me?
we can. Go ahead, Cynthia.
This message is for Mark. Congratulations, by the way. I know that you recently got married. So first off, we all know how crazy, ridiculous hand speed that Gary Russell Jr. has. Can you talk about the sparring that you've received to emulate that kind of speed in the ring for you?
I had a sparring partner, Shoshan, take a sparring partner from Boston. He's good. He mimicked the style of Gary Russell. So every time we spar, we train the style of Gary Russell. So this fight is gonna be a good fight, and this is my first world title fight. I'm gonna do my best shot.
Okay, and then second, you know, when it always comes down to, and whenever we talk about Filipino fighters, you're carving out your own legacy, and what do you want to show the Philippines, your fellow kababayan, the type of fighter that you are? Because whenever we talk about Filipino fighters, we always compare everyone to Senator Manny Pacquiao. And unfortunately, everyone is not going to be like him. What do you want to show the world and to the Philippines, what kind of fighter you're going to be?
There's no next Manny Pacquiao, but I'm gonna put my name in the history that I'm good. I'm a good boxer. I'm a good boxer. I'm a competitor like Gary Russell. So I'm hungry. So I want this fight. I will title fight. So yeah, it's good.
That's a luck to you both.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Cynthia. Let's go next to Kirk Jackson. Kirk is with Boxing Insider. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, thank you. My first question is for Mark. Mark, this is your first world title fight. How do you feel like your experiences have prepared you for the challenge of Mr. Gary Russell?
I'm so happy that I'm gonna fight a world title fight. Shoshan gave it to me, and BBC and Showtime. So I'm blessed that I'm here now facing with a world champion. So I'm happy. I'm good.
Without revealing your strategy, what do you think your best attribute is going into this championship fight?
Say it again. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Without revealing your strategy, what do you feel like your best attribute is going into this fight with Gary Russell?
My advantage of Gary Russell is I'm tall and I'm stronger than him. But we train for every day in the gym for 3.5 months with Coach Freddy. So we do a lot of techniques. So we change the fight.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I have a question for Gary Russell. Gary, I believe that you're one of the more ducked and avoided fighters we've seen in the past 10 years or so. What specifically can fans and media members do to change the current business structure of boxing in regards to us making the fights or making the fights that fans want to see in the most competitive fights?
That was a great question. That was one of the best questions that I've had thus far. Just hold these guys accountable. You know, don't just say it when you are doing an interview with one another. Hold these other guys accountable. Ask them the question. Why is it that you're not in the ring trying to fight Gary Russell Jr.? Why is this? As far as the fans go, the fans need to stop boycotting some of these fights. Stop supporting some of these fights when you already know what the outcome is going to be before the fight even happens. You know, like I said, I take my head off to Mark. It's no secret when you ask about him without unveiling his strategy. It's no secret. He don't have no option but one option. The only option he could possibly have is to try to apply pressure. That's it. That's all. He can't stay on the outside because he's too slow. He's not fast enough. He don't have the hand speed. He don't got the foot speed. So he can't stay on the outside and try to outbox me. That's not going to happen. He's going to have to come forward and apply pressure. I mean, it's just as simple. I've been doing this shit too long. I've been doing it too long. I know the answers before the answers all come to me already. Before the question was already asked. That's the only option that he could have is to come forward, try to apply pressure, hopefully he'll try to overwhelm me with his power and get lucky and land something solid. He's probably in great conditioning. I take my hat off to Manny Pacquiao. It's safe to say that he is a legend in the sport of boxing. And for him to be willing to sign Mark as one of his fighters, you know, I'm pretty sure he has an eye on what he considered talent is, you know. So I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited, bro.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, and I have one last question. Gary, considering I believe you're the longest reigning champion right now, and you possess a unique skill set, for whatever reason, the politics of boxing, you haven't been regarded or you haven't been heralded or received the props as being like a pound for pound top guy. How do you feel like your career will be remembered? And do you believe that at some point before you retire, you'll be able to get some of the guys who have been avoiding you, some of the guys such as a Tank Davis, a Leo Santa Cruz, a Carl Frampton, Devin Haney, a Warrington, et cetera, et cetera?
Oh man, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. What I can say is to the people that has had the opportunity to watch me compete, in most cases, they would say that my skill set is very special. It's second to none. You know, it's special. It's second to none. As far as the pound for pound list, I honestly don't pay the pound for pound list any mind. Pound for pound list is merely based upon it's a popularity contest. It's based upon who's more popular. It's not based upon skill. If it was based upon skill, Mr. Gary Russell Jr. would be on the list. Therefore, I really don't pay it any mind. You know, you can't. My father told me a long time ago, no matter what you do, you'll never be able to please everybody. Somebody always has something to say. You know, so all I can do is do the best that I can do. I'm grateful that I have a fellow competitor like Mark that's willing to give it the best that he can, and willing to bring his best. He feels as though that he's the best. And I think anyone, any sport, any craft that you participate in, anyone that's participating in the sport, whether you're a rapper, a singer, or you know, a soccer player, it's good for you to feel as though you're the best. It's better. It's good for the fans. It's good for everyone who's watching it, and it's good for your sport, you know, or your career in general, you know. So it's refreshing to get a fighter that's willing to give it everything that they have, you know, and put it all on the line to be known as possibly the best. I welcome it.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, and my prayers to your family. Good luck to both of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt, and thanks for all the great questions today. Really good ones throughout. We have time for just one more. Interestingly enough, before we get to that last reporter, one question came to me via text message just a few moments ago from Mark. Mark, with your experience and what you've seen of Gary so far, do you feel that his hand speed is as fast or possibly faster than Manny Pacquiao's?
His speed, his speed is good, but I have a speed too.
Correct.
I have a speed too, so I can roll with him.
You think that can be a factor for you, is applying the hand speed and trying to match that of Gary? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Great. All right, we're going to go. Last question is going to be from Stephen Angelis, ABS-CBN, the Filipino channel. Stephen, you should be able to unmute and go ahead.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Sir Sean, and hello, Gary. So Mark, quick question. I know you're from Bohol. I know Bohol was hit hard by the typhoon. So how's your family, and does that also give you extra motivation seeing what's happening back home? You've been here for so long now that you can't help but look at what's going on back home.
My family there is good. Nothing happened there for my family there, and I dedicate this fight for my province Bohol and for my family.
And lastly, are you surprised that, because after the Ceja fight, we saw so much potential. We were so happy with that one. Were you surprised that you got this shot right away?
Mhm. Sir Sean said to me that if I won this fight, I'm gonna face Gary Russell. So I need to win to face Gary Russell.
Great. Viva, salamat, Mark. Good luck. Good luck to Gary also.
Thank you.
Okay, Brian Custer, back to you. Thank you, press.
Thank you, Chris. Just a couple more things here. Mark, I'll start with you here. You know, when you look at, like, let's say the last 5 guys who fought Gary Russell Jr., what has been their downfall? What have they done that Mark Magsayo is not going to do and become victorious?
For the last 3 fights here in US, Shashan gave it to me a ball fighter, come always forward fighter. So they didn't say me how to box, how to in out, speed. They didn't say me to face Gary Russell like this style. So I think I'm gonna face him a real fight. I give him a real fight.
And Gary, I don't know if I've ever asked you this question before. Ultimately, what would you still like to accomplish in this sport?
Honestly, I want a career-defining match. I want one of those career-defining fights. With someone who they say who's supposed to be the best of the best, you know. That's ultimately what I want. You know, I've made good money in the sport. I'm lying, I made great money in the sport, and I'm the longest reigning champion. Like I say, I want that one fight that says, okay, he's definitely better, hands down, than anyone he's ever beat in the sport right now. That's what I mean.
Well, I tell you what, folks, that fight could be January 22nd when he steps in the ring with Mark Magsayo, because it's going to come to you on Showtime Championship Boxing. It will be live from the Borgata Hotel and Casino and Spa in Atlantic City. 9 p.m. Eastern is the time we will start it off. It is a triple header of fights, and the main event features the return of Mr. Gary Russell Jr. to the ring, fighting the unbeaten Mark Magsayo. Again, promoted by TGB Promotions, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions. Tickets on sale. Ticketmaster.com. Ticketmaster.com. Gentlemen, listen, it's going to be one heck of a night. We'll wrap it up with this. We'll start with you, Mark. Give the people a final word. What should they expect January 22nd?
They expect this is a great fight and brawl fight. And we'll thank for Sean Gibbons for giving me this opportunity, and Al Heyman and PBC and MP Promotion and Showtime. So thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Good luck to both of us, Gary Russell, and I'm gonna do my best to win the fight. I give you a good fight. The next Saturday, there's a new champ.
Okay, well, you heard it there. Champ, we'll give you the final word. What should the folks expect January 22nd when they see you back in the ring?
Man, they should see 2 great competitors going head to head. Like I say, I already take my hat off to Mark. I know he's going to bring his best. He sounds confident. He looks like he's confident. You know, that's what we want. That's what we want. That's what we want. That's what the fans want to see. That's what the people want to see. I wish more people in the sport would be like that. Man, but fireworks. You should expect the same thing that you used to seeing. Great hand speed, great boxing ability, ring generalship, IQ, and the heart of a lion. Bring it.
Love it. And that's how Showtime Championship Boxing will kick off the new year, another year of great fights. And it all starts January 22nd in Atlantic City. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We will see you on Showtime next Saturday, January 22nd in Atlantic City.
Oh, yeah.